Why do you talk one way at work, but a completely different way at home? Why do you act confident around some people, yet shrink around others without even meaning to? And why does it feel like these shifts just happen automatically, as if someone else is choosing how you show up? It's not just you. Everyone does this, even the people who seem the most themselves. Lady Gaga has openly admitted that Lady Gaga is a character she created to survive, not who she actually is. And if you've heard Jim Carrey's story, he's even said he's felt like he was wearing a costume instead of just being himself. These are people who reached the peak of fame, wealth, and success, yet still felt disconnected from their true selves. So the question you have to ask is, are you? Because if you're changing your personality depending on who's watching, if your voice, confidence, or energy shifts without your permission, then something deeper is happening inside you. Something that feels automatic, something you didn't consciously choose. And once you realize that, a bigger question starts to form. What if the version of you that shows up every day is just a character and not the real you? When we talk about a character, we're not referring to acting or performance. We're talking about the automatic version of you that shows up every single day, the version you don't consciously choose but still operate through. It's the part of you that reacts instantly when someone criticizes you. It's the voice that whispers, "You're not good enough," even when you know you've done everything right. It's the version of you that becomes quieter around certain people, more agreeable around others, or overly polite when you feel uncomfortable. This character even dictates how you handle your emotions. It's the part of you that laughs off hurt feelings instead of admitting you're hurt, the part that shuts down in conflict even when you want to speak up. It's the version of you that keeps taking care of everyone else first, even when you're exhausted. This character is what psychologists refer to as your identity, not your true self, but the automatic self that learned how to survive, fit in, and stay safe. And most people spend their entire lives defending it without realizing they never actually built it. They inherited it. It was shaped for them long before they were old enough to understand what was happening. But how did this character get created? And why does it feel so impossible to change? This is because the person you're defending was built before you even knew it was happening. In fact, 70% of your personality was already formed by age 7. That means most of who you think you are came from your parents, your environment, and things that happened to you before you could even understand what was going on. You didn't choose these traits. You didn't sit down and decide who to become. It was programmed into you. And it gets worse. People change how they act based on who's watching. You talk differently at work than you do at home. You act differently around your parents than you do around your friends. You're constantly shifting your personality to match what other people expect from you. Even celebrities admit this. Lady Gaga said that Lady Gaga is just a character she created to survive. She said she sometimes feels more like an avatar than a real person. Even Jim Carrey went through years of spiritual work and came out saying that identity is just a costume we wear. These are people who won at life. They got famous, they got rich, and they still feel fake. But most people can't change that identity even when they want to because it's locked inside your brain. Your brain has a system called the default mode network. This is the part of your brain that runs your sense of who you are. It supports internal thought processes like daydreaming, self-reflection, and planning for the future. So instead of creating new thoughts, it just runs the same stories over and over again. It uses the same pathways because they're already built. Once a belief gets into your head, your brain makes it stronger. For example, if you believe, "I'm not good enough," your brain makes that thought faster and easier to think. It becomes automatic. This is why childhood patterns become your identity. Your brain was most flexible when you were young, so the beliefs that formed back then got repeated over and over during the years when your brain was building itself. By age 12, your emotional wiring is basically done. That's why adults still react like children when they feel rejected or attacked. Remember those numbers from the beginning? Your brain processes 11 million bits of information every second, but you're only conscious of 40. That means most of your identity reactions are running on autopilot. You're not choosing them. They're just firing automatically based on programming from decades ago. And when you try to change, your brain fights back. Your brain literally tells you that the new behavior is unsafe, so it warns you to go back to what's familiar. This is why 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. It's not about willpower. It's not about trying harder. The problem is that the identity underneath never changes. You can want to be different all you want, but if your identity stays the same, you'll always snap back to to the old patterns. This also means that the real controlling force in your life is not the world around you. It's not your boss, it's not your family, it's not your circumstances. The real controlling force is the identity you keep trying to defend. This is why people fear success just as much as they fear failure, because success means you have to let go of your old identity. You have to become someone new, and your brain sees that as dangerous. Every major psychological theory points to the same thing. Carl Jung talked about it. Modern therapy systems like internal family systems talk about it. Neuroscience talks about it. They all say the same thing. You're not trapped by the world. You're trapped by who you think you are. So how do you break free from an identity that's wired into your brain? How do you dissolve something that's been running on autopilot since you were a child? Is there something that can help you? Yes, there is one plant that can do what nothing else can. It can actually shut down the part of your brain that keeps you trapped. It's one of the only natural substances on Earth that can quiet the default mode network. It breaks the old identity that keeps you stuck in the same patterns year after year. People travel miles from all over the world for this plant. Some say it heals their past trauma. Others say it helps them destroy their old version that was holding them back. That plant is ayahuasca. It's a psychedelic brew that originated from the Amazon rainforest. Ancient people have used it thousands of years ago to heal themselves because it targets the part of your brain that controls your identity. That part is DMN, or default mode network. When you take ayahuasca, the default mode network softens. Within 30 to 45 minutes of drinking ayahuasca, DMN begins to quiet down. Then it turns off. Without the DMN active, your rigid sense of self softens. This is what some call ego death. The usual noise of your mind disappears. The old pathways stop repeating. The structure holding your old identity relaxes. The voice in your head that's always defending your identity stops talking. And for the first time, deeper layers of yourself can come to the surface. This means the system that's been running your identity on autopilot for your entire life suddenly goes quiet. The rigid patterns that kept you stuck start to loosen, and new perspectives that were impossible before became possible. This isn't just happening to random people either. High-profile figures like Elon Musk have talked about this.
I think some of the psychedelics can be pretty helpful for PTSD and psychological trauma and depression.
Combat veterans who've been through hell and came back with PTSD say ayahuasca helped them recover when nothing else worked. These are people who tried everything: therapy, medications, supplements, but nothing worked until they tried ayahuasca. So what's happening in your brain during this? Ayahuasca contains two main ingredients. One is called DMT. The other is something called MAO inhibitors. When these two combine in your brain, they create a rare state called neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means your brain can change. The old identity circuits that were locked in place start to weaken, and new identity patterns can form. Your brain literally becomes flexible again. It's like being a child again when your brain was still building itself. Except now you're conscious, you can choose what patterns to build. During this state, something profound happens. People can see both their pain and their potential without judgment. For the first time in their lives, they can tell the difference between who they really are and who life forced them to become. But ayahuasca doesn't give you a new identity. It reveals the true self that you buried beneath fear, trauma, and expectations. It shows you the person you were before the world told you who to be. The temporary loosening of your identity does something incredible. It gives you the ability to see the difference between genuine desires and behaviors that were just shaped to gain approval or avoid rejection. But dissolving the old identity only matters if you know how to rebuild it. This is because you lose 80% of the impact within just 2 to 3 weeks. Your brain starts returning to its old pathways, and before you know it, you're back where you started. So, death of your old identity only matters if it leads to the birth of a better one. This is why some people have life-changing ayahuasca experiences, and others go back to their old lives like nothing happened. It's not about the experience itself, it's about what you do after. And this is where most people fail. They have the experience, they see the truth, but then they try to rebuild alone. They go back to the same environment, the same people, the same triggers, and they wonder why they can't hold on to the change. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. If you go back to the same place that created your old identity, your brain will default back to those patterns. It's automatic. So, what do you need to never go back to the old identity? Is there a specific pathway you should choose, or a specific environment designed for you? This is where Rhythmia comes in. It's the world's leading wellness center in Costa Rica that gives you the perfect environment to feel the real you. It's not just about the ayahuasca ceremony. It's about everything that happens after. It provides a medically licensed setting with experienced facilitators. This means you're safe, supported, and you have experts guiding you through the entire process. You're not just having a profound experience and then being left alone to figure it out. It doesn't just give you the experience, it gives you the structure that ensures the experience actually changes your life. When the DMN softens during ceremony, old identity circuits loosen, but that's also when your brain becomes vulnerable. You need guidance, interpretation, and emotional support during that window, or the insights disappear and the old character reclaims control. Rhythmia's facilitators are trained to help you process what comes up while the DMN is quiet, so new identity pathways begin forming immediately rather than getting lost in confusion or emotional overwhelm. This is what rebirth actually looks like. It's not a single ceremony. It's a carefully guided process where every part of the experience supports the next and prevents you from slipping back into the identity you're trying to leave behind. That's why thousands of people don't just have breakthroughs at Rhythmia, they keep them. They don't just dissolve the fake identity, they come home as the person they were always meant to be. Now you know there's a way to break free from your old identity and come back to who you used to be. You have the solution, a path forward in the form of Rhythmia that has helped thousands of people dissolve the fake version of themselves and discover who they actually are underneath all the programming. So you have two choices. You can keep defending the identity you never created, or you can take the step that thousands of others have taken. The choice is yours.